Well, Carlos, I'm excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. Believe it or not, I really am. I had no idea what to expect. I still have no idea what to expect.
Yeah, well, neither do we, I guess. That's the exciting part. We try and meet everybody, you know. I like to meet them in the room. That way it's, you know, pretty organic, and we get, you know, there's no there's no hidden agenda except for to get your story. And I think that my buddy CJ told me about, he's like, you got to get Carlos on. He's got such a cool background. And, you know, you think like, especially with all the talk about like nuclear, you know, Amazon now is going to go, you know, I think we just are trying to get four of the modular nuclear reactors. And with, so it's exciting to see what's going on and kind of see the energy sector of the world kind of come back around to nuclear. And, you know, I think now we're a lot more regulated. And I'm sure you saw the heyday when it was pretty cowboyish.
I never thought of the day that they would consider the nuclear green.
Yeah.
That, especially starting when, you know, my career out here at Hanford and stuff. And I mean, I think, you know, when you know people from in the private industry out here, people that come out of the Navy, nuclear Navy, and that type of thing, and the stories and stuff, and kind of like, you know, we're all very comfortable working around nuclear. It really comes down to that. When I was teaching safety before I retired for WTP, you know, you'd have to tell them all of these various things, how to work around different things and stuff, and different rules. And I told them, I said, you know, I'd rather work around radiation than electricity.
Yeah.
Electricity gives me the willies.
Oh, yeah?
You turn the switch off and on, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I have my degree. I know the electrical theory and all that stuff, and I can explain it, but I'll leave that to the engineers, to the electricians and stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's instant. That's instant.
Yeah, I always tell that, you know, I've been in power generation and stuff like that, and I always tell people that are kind of new around it, I'm like, the whole idea here is to keep electricity invisible. You know, the last thing we want to see is an arc flash, or, you know, see it come out of its conductors.
I mean, it's you know, these movies. You see these movies, you know, guys running away from a fireball. You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, give me a break.
Yeah.
No.
There's no running.
There's no way can you outrun a fireball.
It's wild.
It is.
It's so wild. So to go back, I think to figure out like your perspective and how much probably, you know, different it is for us, especially with Hollywood, and we get to see all these nuclear things and the meltdowns and the documentaries. When were you born, and where were you born?
I was born in 1953 in Toppenish, Washington.
Okay.
Just right down the road here.
Yeah.
Valley. I'm second of 9 kids. I have a very, very large family. And like I said, by large, I mean cousins. On one side, there's 22 of us, and on the other side, there's 32 of us. So, I mean, I have I think 34 cousins. First cousins. And I know every one of them by name.
Yeah.
And, you know, and they said, like, I've had a couple brothers that passed away. I've had cousins that passed away. My aunts and uncles, they were my friends. My grandparents were my friends, you know, when they died and stuff. They weren't just family. They were people that I talked with and got that. Each of my aunts and uncles and my parents, except for one set, because my one uncle died, you know, too early. They were all married 50 years or better.
Yeah.
And that's like 7 or 8 aunts and uncles right there. I'm just kind of like, so I had all these examples of long life and, you know, good marriages, and, you know, and it's like when cousins and I got together, man, we just have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we still do when I get a chance to see it. And then my cousins' cousins and all the cousins' kids and on, that type of thing. It'll never be like it was when I was little type of thing. Right. But, you know, I'm glad I was part of it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I was part of it.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving the respect to that, because that is something that's so much more rare now, it seems, where so many people are so distracted from their family. And I mean, not everybody has a good family, but I love hearing that from you, like just your praise for your family and your upbringing.
Oh, yeah. My
Was your family, what nationality are they?
Oh, yeah. Well, Mexican.
Okay.
The reason I speak Spanish is because my grandparents didn't speak any at all. Well, there's a lot, I mean, I don't want to get into controversy or whatever like that, but, immigrants is a big deal.
Yeah.
Immigration and stuff and everything else. And my grandparents were immigrants.
Yeah.
My let's see, on my dad's side, my grandfather Jose came over in the very early, I think late, let's say like about 1918, 1919, went into Texas and left my grandma behind in Mexico still. And he helped he became what's called a traquero.
Okay.
They're the people that helped to build the railroad in Texas.
Okay.
And so he would be gone like 2 weeks or 3 weeks at a time and come back, whatever. That's just how they worked back then. And then my grandmother made it across the border. He wrote my grandma a letter, and she came across. I think it was like 1922. And there's and that's that. My dad's side, on my mom's side, they were just on the other side of the New Mexican border, and they were more well off and that type of thing. So it's really not a. And my grandpa worked in the salt mines in Kansas, and that's where he came up. And that's where all of his kids, except one, were born in Kansas. And my dad and his two sisters were born in Texas. So I mean, but I just have what I don't know how you want to call it, a difficult time understanding, the immigration system when, it's been hard for all immigrants coming across, coming from across the Atlantic, coming across the southern border, coming across the north. It's always been difficult. And my grandparents were always very, very thankful to have come to the United States. And and then my dad was a World War II vet, and so he didn't see combat, but he was actually training to be a tail gunner in a bomber. Yeah, when the war ended and stuff. When you talk about dropping the bomb and this everything else and that type of thing, if we hadn't have ended the war, I might not be here.
Isn't that something? We interviewed Bill Malley from Malley's Pharmacy in Richmond.
Oh, yeah.
Exact same. He was an immigrant from Canada, and he was training to be a gunner on a bomber. And he, same thing. The war ended.
It's the same. It's just that. And you're kind of like.
Isn't that crazy?
The domino effect. Yeah. And then the other part about it is probably the part that really gets me is, when. And I don't know much about Ellis Island and everybody coming across, that type of thing. I grew up in a culture. I mean, I'm Mexican culture. Beans and tortillas and rice on the table every meal. I mean, beans. I mean, I eat with my hands still.
Yeah.
I'm that way. I'm still that way. But coming across the immigrants coming across, the southern border back then, they were treated pretty harshly, really.
Yeah.
My grandmother had, when she came across in 1922, she actually had 2 miscarriages.
Oh.
And before she had my oldest, my aunt, then my dad and my other aunt, and I read a lot.
Yeah.
I listen a lot, and I'm always interested in culture and that type of thing. And I ran across an article not too long ago, really, that Zyklon B. You know what Zyklon B is?
I don't.
That's the poison that the Germans used on the Jews.
Oh.
In the gas chambers. That they used that on migrants coming across. Just sprayed them to get rid of any kind of diseases or anything that they had on them. And then if they had lice in their hair, they actually sprayed them with DDT.
Huh.
And so I have my issue is just kind of like, maybe that's why my grandmother had, those miscarriages until it went out of her system.
Right.
You hate to hear those stories.
Yeah.
And it just tears me because I'm so fortunate to be here.
Yeah,
I am extremely fortunate to be here.
I
really
love
am.
that. You know what's wild? So you were just telling me about that. How you were saying if World War II wouldn't have ended, you might not be here, and your grandpa might have went to war and died, and then you end up working at the place that helped end World War II.
How ironic. How ironic.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It just, and the thing is, that, my dad never finished school, but my mom, who also had a torturous past from Kansas to Washington to Toppenish to meet my dad. My mom did graduate from high school in 1948 in Toppenish High School. And that's where she met my dad. And, and my parents stressed education.
Yeah.
They were going to make sure that we not only finished high school, but that we have also kind of like had the opportunity to move on. Imagine
the sacrifice that they made and like you said, the trauma they endured traveling, coming to America, all that they went through. And then they, giving I would say instilling the integrity and the ambition in their kids. We made this sacrifice for you. Take advantage of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, and then, you talk about the opportunities and various things. My older brother had a little bit harder time than I did because he had to learn English to get when he started first grade. By the time I went into first grade, it wasn't so difficult, even though I was still in that. And then we just got, ingrained into doing as best we could. Not that we were all, geniuses or really smart, getting straight A's. Oh, we are all goof-offs no matter what.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody said. But I did. I did graduate, and then I wanted to go to college, and I did. I went to Eastern, and I spent 3 years there. But the reason that I'm here is this poor little kid at 21 years old got tired of school and not having any money in his pocket.
Yeah.
That's
easy to get tired of.
That really, and then there was an ad in the paper, Tri-City Herald, 1974, and asking for interviews for reactor operators, nuclear handlers, trainees, and I applied for it. And the individual that I think I told you on the phone, Paul Binther, was the manager of N-Reactor at the time, and he interviewed me. And he asked me that question, so why do I want to do this? And I told him directly, just kind of like, I want some money. Yeah. I want to have, I'm tired of it. You have friends in college and stuff, and then they're going out having pizza and this and that, whatever, and I didn't have anything. Yeah. I get $5 from my grandmother once in a while, that type of thing. Man, I thought I was rich.
Yeah.
And, and so you learn how to use that little bit of that money and just make it stretch. Type of thing. And I'm still the same way. I still feel that I got to stretch what I have.
Yeah.
And, that's just the mentality of the time.
Yeah.
And the things that I had. And then so when I did get hired on, I thought, wow, my base pay, $184.84 a week.
Yeah.
I thought, oh man, my mom was so happy for me and everything, when I first came home and that type of thing.
Can I ask you a question? What I guess values or traits did you feel that you personally had at that time that allowed you to get a job like that? Was it just that you wanted money, or what you had to have some self-reflection and be like, I can do this. What did you value about yourself?
Oh, well, I mean, science, I was something I was interested in, that type of thing. But at the same time, though, I was very fortunate to have got on a crew, because we had crews back then. at the end reactor. And so you had A, B, C, and D crews, and I was put on the B crew. And I couldn't have landed a better crew of operators, mechanics, INC techs, electricians, radiation monitors, all of these people that basically took me under their wing.
Yeah.
They taught me, I think I was a pretty respectful kid to start with, whatever. I mean, just from my grandparents and not my parents, that type of thing. But they taught me a lot about reinforced the work ethic that I had.
Yeah.
And I think they saw it. And they helped me to make sure that I was safe, that I worked safely, that, if I needed something, they were ready to ask me. I mean, there are just so many things that I hadn't experienced.
Yeah.
When I went to college, all of a sudden I have a room, a little bit bigger than this probably, and a roommate.
Yeah.
And I shared a room with one person instead of 9, a 2-bedroom house with 9 kids.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a true story right there. And all of a sudden, it's kind of like, and people talk about all the noise and in the dorm and this and that, kind of like, this is not even close to noise, dude. You don't know what noise is. And so those are the type of things that I and I had no idea that I was working with so many World War II vets. I found that out later, when, as you got a little bit older and stuff and got to find out. And actually a lot of them that retired and left and stuff, and I would see them in town. And then we struck up a conversation, and you did what? And from the, working, to, the, what do you call it? Liberating Europe.
Yeah.
And then cleaning up the Pacific Islands with, after a battle. There's a couple people that told me, they said, they were assigned to, clean up and pick up bodies and this and that. Just kind of like, oh my God. Like, can you imagine?
Yeah, I can't.
Being in the sun out there for 3 weeks or something like that, and then just finally getting the last body out. And it was just, I did.
Yeah.
I mean, all you can I don't know how they did it.
Yeah. We've talked about, because of the demographic that we sit down with, we've talked about World War II quite a bit, and it's that, that's part of the idea behind this. But I just hope that these younger generations realize what these people went through and why they were so hard. And I mean, they just saw things in what I would say probably, one of the most traumatic times in human history where it was able to be documented.
Oh yes.
And
and now, I'm in the Vietnam era age, type of thing, and a lot of Vietnam vets, and that same type of thing in many ways, with it just kind of like, and then now I feel terrible for these school shootings.
Yeah.
Kids that young should not be seeing bodies blown up like that. Or torn up. I mean, I just got to just do this. It just boggles me to it's real, and it's just kind of like, no. Grown men go nuts seeing it. Can you imagine what young children do?
I love what you said. I don't love what we're talking about, but I love how you emphasize how it's real. That's what I think gets so confused with these kids and a lot of them that live in this world of video games and this virtual reality. When that is real, and it gave me goosebumps when you said that. And we gotta do something about that. It's humanity has such a dark side that we tend to, I think, sweep under the rug a little too often, that we should be. I mean, I grew up that way with, I'm going to say, cowboys and Indians and playing war, and we get corn cobs and stuff. We throw them at each other as grenades, in the eye, or a dirt clod or something like that.
But we didn't want to hurt anybody. We just kind of like we're pretending, but we had no idea
Yeah.
what we were pretending. Now, because of so much technology, golly, we're just inundated so much.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, playing Wordle is hard enough
Yeah.
game to try to do anything with. But
Yeah.
oh yeah, So it's just to get to the point where I am here. When you're asked that question, is when I started out here, that was it. I just got there. But at the same time, it opened up a world of, I guess, wisdom
Yeah.
from there. Not only from the individuals, it's an hour bus ride to go out there.
Yeah.
You had to ride the bus, and so I started reading.
Okay.
I started reading more than I ever thought of reading. Reading. I even read like Dostoevsky and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Just because I could. And so it just kind of like, and then, music, getting a new guitar, and then just started trying to figure things out. I'd be playing a record over and over and over again so I could try to figure out how to play it, because there was no such thing as tab or the internet, learning how that type of stuff.
If you're enjoying watching this podcast and the stories that are being told, it's not just about that. There's something bigger going on. The family of the person sitting in this chair right now will have their life story documented forever.
Our private interviews give your family the opportunity to preserve their stories and legacies indefinitely.
This opportunity is created through a comfortable experience, high quality audio and video, and a team that truly cares about the stories of the generations that lived before us.
We view this as a digital time capsule. It offers you the opportunity to preserve your family's stories, not only for now, but for generations to come.
There's something to be said about hearing stories from the individual who lived the stories, and to hear it from the cadence of their voice, with their facial expressions. We have the unique opportunity where we can do it by video call, we can do it in person in the studio, or we can pick up our studio and bring it to you.
We should never take the moments that we have with our loved ones for granted, no matter their age.
The most consistent regret I hear is that people do not record their loved ones. If you'd like to purchase the opportunity for you or your loved one to sit down in our studio, do a video recording with us, or for us to come to you, please check out www.wrinkledwisdom.org. That's www.wrinkledwisdom.org.
Thank you for supporting the podcast. Now back to the episode.
One thing about like learning music is, so you're self-taught on guitar?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, me too. And it was before YouTube, they were just figuring out where you could read tablature and stuff like that. And the neuroplasticity that I think expand when you learn an instrument, because it's another language. I consider music's it's truly incredible. The engineering and the theory of music's truly incredible, but just when you figure out a song, it kind of gives you a little bit of cockiness where you're like, I can figure out just about any problem, maybe. You hit
it.
Yeah.
You really have. And but there's the other part of it, kind of thing. These people that they say music educators.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, I'm jealous at them.
Oh yeah.
They read the music. It's like reading a book.
Yeah.
To them, they can read the notes and know how going up and down and everything else. They can actually hum the melody and all that. It's kind of like, how can you do that?
Isn't that something?
But then it comes, they're incredulous in the other way. It's kind of like, you don't read music, you've never educated in it, that type of thing. But timing, rhythm, all these different things, and stuff and chords. So what key do you want to do it in? Oh, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I understand that, but I'm educated in a different way to know how everything fits.
Yeah.
With the major chords, the minor chords, and all that stuff. Oh yeah. It's a blast.
Yeah.
It's a blast to be. I've played with quote unquote world class piano players, guitar players, opera singers. That okay, cool.
Well,
yeah.
Have you played shows? Like you played big shows then?
Oh, not big shows, but I've been on stage. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you ever go to music shows over in like the Toppenish, Lower Valley area when you were younger?
No, they didn't have anything like that back then.
No.
They didn't have anything back then. Now, you have the casino there and all that stuff, and you have a lot of all these different things, but nothing like that. My first concert that I ever went to was Seals and Cross. I don't know if you know who that group, who that is. It's a duo. They're actually both Texas born. They were hanging around California studios and stuff, and they were good friends with Glenn Campbell and that type of thing. But they ended up recording a song. I think it was in 72 or the summer of 70, 71, 72, someplace in there. And it was a song called Summer Breeze. I don't know if you've ever heard that, Summer Breeze. Da, 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 da. And anyway, what happened was it was a number 1 hit and everything. And they were at Whitworth College in Spokane.
Oh, yeah, Spokane.
$2.
Yeah.
Okay. So I went and saw them, and I watched them perform, and just talk about something that just I'd only been playing guitar like about 6 months.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Seals playing guitar and the fiddle and stuff, and Dash Crofts the mandolin.
That was it.
I fell in love with the mandolin right then and there. Oh my goodness! If you play guitar,
do you get chills from music?
Oh yeah.
Have you ever heard the term frisson? I think it's called frisson.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think only 50 or 50 or 60% of the human population get that.
Yeah.
Or specific frequencies trigger that.
Oh.
I think that is so cool. I love that.
Oh, I'll tell you what. So I love playing my guitar. I got lots of them. I can show you pictures of those too.
Yeah.
But the mandolin just opened up.
Yeah.
Oh, if you ever want to listen to it, people look. I'll play it in at festivals or something else, in church, and different things and that type of thing. And people come up to me and go, "What kind of guitar is that? Is that a banjo? Can you tell me? I didn't know you could play ukulele." I was going, "Oh."
Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering if you've ever seen my grandpa play. My grandpa used to play around Toppenish and Granger and Zilla, and he played with some. It was, I think, Johnny Parker and the Blue Jays, I think, was his thing.
Yeah, that was all beyond me. Because like I said, like I didn't hang around that circle.
Yeah.
I was working in the fields, or I was driving a truck for my dad, and so I'd never really had that kind of free time to be able to. I always wanted to play guitar. I love to sing.
Yeah.
I love to sing. But we were never, had enough that I'd want to, somebody would buy me a guitar or this or that type of thing.
Yeah.
But what really got me was, I was in sixth grade. Now I'm going to tell you the teacher that made music explode in my head.
Yeah.
I was in 6th grade. And the music teacher, Mrs. Shoemaker, I have no idea what her first name is or whatever happened to her or that type of thing. I just remember after our session, she came up to me and she says, "You sing so well in a group." She said, "You keep that up. You keep that up. You got a good voice to be able to blend in different things." And that was all that she needed to tell me. And from there on, I love to sing. But at the same time, I wanted to, I was so fascinated by people who were playing guitar.
Yeah.
And not until my freshman year, the end of my freshman year, that I was introduced and somebody lent me a guitar. And then from there on, it was just.
Yeah, that shows how important it is for adults to praise kids, about their gift or to empower them. Yeah, I think
without a doubt. And like I said, and there's and it's when you're self-taught, it's cool because you're playing guitar enough, you start learning how to play, your fingers hurt.
Yeah.
And if there's been times where some kids want to learn how to play. Okay, first thing I tell them is, your fingers are going to hurt. And and they're doing this thing. So you got to do is practice, and you'll get over it. You'll get calluses, and next week they come and they say, "Have you been practicing?" "Oh yeah."
Nope.
No.
Yeah, you got to play.
You can tell real
Yeah,
easy.
isn't that something like if you want to learn how to play guitar, you gotta love music enough to play through a little pain in the beginning.
You do.
Yeah.
You really do. You really do.
I never thought of it that way.
I have 5 kids of my own, and 3 of them play.
Yeah.
And they can tell you. They can tell you. And I mean, one of the things I don't stop playing is I don't want to lose my calluses. I don't want to learn that over again.
Yeah.
My calluses are really nice and thick and stuff and everything else. I can not play for a week or two type of thing.
Yeah.
But I have to get myself back into doing it again. It's just too important to me.
Absolutely. From a dad to a dad, what's your favorite thing about being a dad?
Oh God, I think probably more than anything else is to never stop encouraging, because you know what, one of the things is just kind of like they say, you hear it'll be, things will get better. Things will get better at the end. Guess what? We aren't at the end yet.
Yeah.
During that time.
Yeah.
And then so when you get to an end, when they've solved the problem or when they've gotten over the hurt or whatever, or a success, okay, then the next time it comes along, he said, you remember the last time when we were in the middle of this, you came through it.
Yeah.
And there's where my parents, 9 kids, same type of thing, I had wonderful parents that would encourage you and teach you things. My biggest influence, as much as I'm a man, my biggest influence actually came from my mother and my 2 grandmothers.
Yeah.
I the quote unquote patience, tenderness factor type of thing. My dad was a great man too, but the thing that he taught me was never to give up. My dad was kind of like keep on going. Where my when you get the influence of my mom taught me patience. My one grandmother taught me how to pray. The other one told me how to share.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody, my grandfather, that the only grandfather that I knew, he told me to have fun. I mean, how much more can you have?
Right. That's like, pretty much life summed up.
Really, you get those 5 things. You get those 5 things in there. It's don't give up, learn how to pray, learn how to share, patience, and have fun.
You know what I love about that is every one of those, I guess I would say, like traits or advice or qualities in life, they all come from love.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah, I love that.
When visiting my various aunts and uncles and cousins and stuff at their houses and stuff, it was the same. It was almost the same. Just kind of like, wow, you feel comfortable.
Yeah,
you feel comfortable.
Yeah,
and then
that is so important for a kid's development.
Oh, when friends came over to when I was growing up and stuff, my mom would be making tortillas or something like that.
Yeah.
Friends would go, do you think your mom would let me have a tortilla? Oh, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
No big deal.
Oh, I love that.
Those are the type of things that, and me, I roll my own out, flour tortillas now. And, and my kids are spoiled.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the real thing.
Yeah.
And so, if I can continuously give them that.
Yeah.
And their mom was, I mean, I'm biased. She was my wife, and she very very nurturing.
Yeah.
I mean, when my wife, she was a what do you call it? A paraeducator.
Oh, okay.
And so, I mean, you see her with her kids that she was in her class. Call them honey and sweetie and all the motherly words. And I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I'm, and that's what my kids grew up with. My wife's been gone now for about 4 years. So she died of cancer in 2020.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But life goes on. Life goes on.
Yeah, it has to.
I don't know where this thing will lead, but that was when you talk about if you hear 2020, the pandemic year.
Yeah.
That was the year that my wife that she in March got the diagnosis of cancer, and she died at the end of May. And so it's just kind of like the rest of the year was basically a blur.
Yeah.
And so the pandemic to me was nothing.
Yeah.
I understood a lot of the things that were going on, that type of thing, but and then it just took me a while to work through things and stuff, just like anything else. I think anytime you, and I said I'd lost my parents and a brother and other cousins and aunts and uncles and that type of thing. But losing my wife when you didn't really think about losing your wife at the time, it's just kind of like it really hit hard. And it took me a while. And then last year, I went on a pilgrimage.
Oh.
I walked 500 miles across the north of Spain. I don't know if you ever heard of the Camino de Santiago before. It starts in France and just on the other side of the Pyrenees and ends up in a town called Santiago, 500 miles away. And just walking across took me 33 days. And I cried like a baby when I got to the end at the cathedral and everything, because it was just one of these things that you needed I needed to die, I guess, really, when it comes down to it. All that sweat, all of that energy, all of that stuff just kind of like it just filtered out of me. And so when I get to the end, it was just kind of like, this is why I made the pilgrimage. I wanted to start my life over.
Yeah.
And I carried I probably should have sent you the picture because I didn't think about it, but I carried a scallop clam shell around my neck with my a lock of my wife's hair glued into it, that type of thing. And then our initials, and I tell people, on this, everybody goes on a Camino, on that pilgrimage for their own reason.
Okay.
And I told them why I was doing that. And, I had a lot of people were supporting me, to do that. And so when I get to the end, there's another town called Finisterre. It's the Latin word for end of the world. And that was given by the Romans, back in the 1200s or, 1000, whatever.
Yeah.
The world was flat.
Yeah.
So that was that little spit of the end at the end of the world. They called it Finisterre, the end of the world. And so I meant to the end of the world, and I ripped the shell off.
Oh,
and I threw it into the ocean. And that was for me to turn my tears of grief to tears of joy. And I don't mind sharing that at all anymore, because that really does. I mean, I miss my wife tremendously. Don't get me wrong there, type of thing. But it was something that said like I needed to start my life over and do that type of thing. And I met someone.
Oh, good.
71 years old too, same age as I was, and we both walked that Camino. So it was just a lot of fun to now to reflect back on it.
Yeah.
And it was the hardest thing I ever did, but the best thing I ever did, except for being married and having 5 kids. So it comes in 7th place.
Oh,
so
I love that.
I recommend it. I can talk about the Camino for a long time.
Let's see.
There you go.
Yeah, let's see what it.
There you go. And that's exactly right. And if you look down on that one, that round with the individuals on it,
and the one in the middle,
the cartoon one, whatever. Yeah, that one right there. That one? Yeah, I like that one just because. Yeah, it starts way up there, Saint John.
Can you expand?
And then just goes way up there in the very top up there. That you go across the Pyrenees and then just head across, and you meet a tremendous amount of people that are walking it. And there is a lot of history. We have no idea what old is.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
In the United States. Oh, golly. I mean, you're talking thousands of years old. You come across ruins that the Romans built in BC time, and and I just made just some really, 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 really good friends. And and you see that post right there? Yeah, that's what you see. That right there shows you the way. I mean, you have to. The shell and the yellow arrow are the symbols of the markers for getting through the Camino.
Okay.
And you'll see them everywhere.
What type of stories or reasons did you hear from other people while they were doing it that you remember?
Oh, simplification of their life.
Was sobriety?
There's some Europeans just do it for vacation. Can you believe that?
Yeah, just
I mean, for me, it was just going all the way across. But it's it just changes you. I mean, when you're talking, like I still walk. Okay,
Yeah.
Before I went on the trip, I was walking a lot. I logged in over 1,000 miles before I even went on this thing. And, to get in shape for it, that type of thing. But, and so if I walk, let's say 15,000 to 20,000 steps a day, trying to do this type of thing. When you're on the Camino, you're walking 40,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
At least twice as many, anywhere from 15 to 20 miles a day. And you're going up and down. They don't do switchbacks in here. It's just up and down like this. Yeah. Oh man, I tell you, your toes just beat into the toes of your shoes and stuff. And I was very fortunate. I did not get any blisters at all.
Yeah.
And blisters are a big thing that really will slow you down and not enjoy it. But people do it for a tremendous amount of reasons. There's a movie called The Way. I don't know if you ever heard of that. That's with Emilio Estevez and Martin Sheen. Watch that. And it's a Hollywood movie.
Okay.
It gives you the spirit of it.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't show you the sweat and the trials of falling down and getting back on up and that type of thing. But it got a good spirit to it.
Yeah, I like that.
It really will. It gives you the message of the Camino itself.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, we'd love to check that out. I wonder, I'll have to watch the trailer or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate you telling us that story. I had no idea about that. And what a intellectual feat, physical and intellectual, but it takes the intellectual capability to.
And, and it really come down to it. It was just, I just last month, September. Yeah, we're still in September. This last month, I went. I think I told you this on the phone.
Yeah.
The man that hired me, Paul Vinther, 50 years ago. 50 years ago, I tell her I'm doing my tours at B Reactor at the time. This is my 50th year of being here at Hanford.
Yeah.
And people are going, "Wow, really?" Then I show them the picture of me, on the phone where they're in the control room.
Can we pull that?
And they kind of, is that the same? You're the same. You haven't changed a bit, type of thing.
Yeah, I got to see that.
But that was the day that I got my certificate to run N Reactor, and so it's just oh God, look all those. I tell them, said, you see no digital there, right?
No, it's all analog.
Everything's analog.
Yeah.
Everything's hardwired in and stuff. And the people that I met, in fact, that person that's in the middle there, his name's Dale Thayer. He was a World War II vet that was just a great mentor of mine. And just anything, all of these guys, Dave Ferguson over here, my shift manager. In fact, then this guy over here, Emil Lights, who was handing me the certificate, he was the plant manager at the time, and he is actually still alive.
Oh, he is?
Yes, he is. Anyway, so but going back and talking about Paul Vinther, I was here he is. He hired me in 1974, and here I am in 2024 saying goodbye to him. Oh. And his family, let me go up front and say a few words, and I think that was one of the biggest honors.
Oh yeah,
I could ever think, and I just tell him, I said, I blame Paul Vinther for the life I had since the last 50 years, because he said yes, I'm going to hire you, and and it's so cool for people to take that chance.
Isn't it?
When you were talking about earlier, you said what's the advice, type of thing. You got to give your kids a chance.
Right.
I mean, we all mess up.
That's right.
We all mess up. But, said like, okay, what have you when they ask you, so, well, what have you learned? I don't expect my kids to tell me right off the bat what they've learned.
Yeah.
Tell me in a couple, 2 or 3 years, maybe, or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Because it takes that long to process sometimes, especially if they become parents.
Yeah. Isn't it funny too how you make choices and it'll be 10, 15 years down the road and you'll be like, that's why I did that, or that's why that happened to me.
Oh,
I think that's it. It's funny how we age, and when you start to live long enough and you're like, man, when I was 20, that's why that happened. So I learned that lesson for right now. I love that about life.
Exactly. And it's one of these things that you have in the back of your mind. You have no idea.
Yeah, you don't know what's
where
there.
It came from. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, it's kind of like, or like if any of you, if you have any education or have read the Bible or something like that, it's kind of like, and then all of a sudden a Bible verse pops into your head, and it's kind of and I can quote the whole thing. It's, how the heck did that happen?
Yeah.
But that's the type of stuff that, I tell people, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you, when I talk about non-wrinkled wisdom, and I've been living this for a long time, is when I was 24, I was helping out a kid, probably 15, 16 years old. He had lost his mom, and he was asking, why did God make me lose my mom? I had no answer. I didn't know. I mean, I was 24.
Yeah.
And my mom was still very vibrant and everything, and so it was really hard for me to, besides just giving them support. And I went back, and I just started playing my guitar and just getting myself, back to it. After that kind of conversation, you want to lift yourself up.
Yeah.
And the guitar does that to me. And anyway, but I started to become a songwriter too. So I started writing poems and lyrics and everything else. But I've never written anything to this. I wrote a poem, and I'll just tell you the line.
Yeah.
One line of it. Here I am, 24, thinking about a 16-year-old kid, and I said, I am old, but a child still smiles within me. When I sing, he dances. When I sleep, he dreams endlessly. I am weary, but the child plays on.
Oh, I love that.
Only 24. I'm not old.
Yeah, yeah.
But you think that. When 8 years different, and now.
Yeah, because 8 years is 33% of your life at 24.
And now, over the lifetime of I've shared that with other people, and it's getting more and more true as I get older. Now that I'm 71, it's just kind of like the woman I met, Jeanette. Her and I are pretty much together. Said we don't. Getting old sucks, but you know what? We don't want to act old. We don't want to have our mind feel like we're old. Walking 500 miles at 71 years old.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed with my health.
It's neat
and I don't want to stop it.
It's neat to think that you wrote that when you were 24. So it must have been something that was true to you. Like you subconsciously, now that you're older, that's who I've always been.
Yeah, and I put my grandparents right into that because they were they influenced me so much with that.
Yeah. And
it's just kind of like I had all this quote unquote wrinkled wisdom deep within me that I had no idea how to draw it out.
Yeah.
And and then said working with these individuals in Reactor.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit? So for people that don't understand what Hanford is and the N reactor and the B reactor,
sure.
You,
one of the things that like our friend CJ. I'll give him a shout out.
Yeah, right? We got to give him a shout out.
Okay, CJ, thank you very much, dude. But anyway, when I I started doing the B Reactor tours.
And B reactors.
B reactor was
first.
When the B reactor was the first reactor that was built for the Manhattan Project.
It was the first in the world, right?
Yes. And all of the reactors out there, I'm not going to lie to you, whatever, all those reactors out there were built for one thing and one thing only, to make plutonium. That's what they were built for. The first 8 were what's called single pass reactors, water from the river through the reactor and back into the river. And there's a lot more to it all than just what I just told you, but that's the gist of it. N reactor was the last one that was built, was actually a pressurized water reactor that circulated water and went to a secondary system which produced steam, which produced electricity at the HGP. And that's the Hanford generation.
So it would use steam to spin a turbine.
Yes,
and then the turbine would spin the generator.
860 megawatts of electricity.
860 megawatts in what year?
This was in 1974. I can't remember. I think it started in 68.
That's an incredible amount of power.
Oh yeah. So it was twin turbines, twin GE turbines and stuff and it ran really well. But it was called a dual purpose reactor. It produced plutonium and it produced steam. And so, but its main mission was to produce plutonium. So we'd shut down pretty frequently. I mean, they would have had enrichments that could keep it running and that type of thing. Been in the commercial world, whatever. But every 30 to 35, 40 days, something had to shut down, refuel about 10% of the reactor, and then start back on up again. And that type of thing.
And how do the reactors how do they enrich the plutonium? They provide the electricity for the device that does it, or
the enrichment process was really actually in its infancy. Whatever the first reactors they were all natural uranium, 0.71% enrichment. That's what it's called. That's just the natural. And then eventually they figured out how to enrich it by making more uranium-235 into the fuel. But it was only like 0.95, 1.25. It wasn't very much at all. It was still pretty low. How they do it, whatever, I'm not into that.
Yeah.
We produce a lot of plutonium. Let's just put it that way. As a country, with all those reactors running, and then some in South Carolina when they actually started that type of thing, we produced a lot.
Yeah.
It was overkill, really.
How much
I
does
feel
it?
that way.
Can you look up how much percentage uranium has to be enriched or to be weapon grade? Is it 80?
Oh no. Uranium.
Or not plutonium, I meant.
Plutonium. Oh, if you gotta get down to it, what you want to have is plutonium-239. Okay. Plutonium-239 is the product that's fissionable. Okay. You got plutonium-238, 240, 241. That doesn't fission at all. So the plutonium-239 has the same characteristics as uranium-235, which is the fissionable part of uranium. But it's only like 0.7% of all the uranium. So there's not much there. What you do in the reactor is you convert that uranium-238 into plutonium-239. But it takes a lot to do that. So in our tour, for every 4 tons, every 4 tons of uranium, you can get a pound of plutonium.
Wow! So out of 8,000 pounds, you get 1 pound.
There you go.
That's incredible.
And so. When we first started, I know you saw the movie Oppenheimer.
Oh yeah.
When in that one scene where they said how much plutonium they're getting, they just put the marble in that jar type of thing.
Yeah.
How slow it just kind of. Yeah. It's because it takes so much uranium, and then we were at the very beginning. We were pretty inefficient in the way that they were separating the uranium from the plutonium. It's like a 17-step chemical process to separate all of the fission products and the uranium stuff to end up with the plutonium. it was and you look at it and just kind of like, okay, there's so many things that had to happen. You know, first you had to prove that we could sustain a nuclear chain reaction, which Enrico Fermi did in Chicago. Can you believe that there was a nuclear reactor built in the downtown Chicago in a squash court underneath football stands?
Yeah, wasn't it built in a basement or something? Yeah,
In a squash court underneath the stands of Stagg Field in downtown Chicago.
Gosh,
There's
that's
a little
wild.
plaque. There's a little plaque there. If you go to University of Chicago, it's there.
Okay.
And then okay, let's build a reactor. Here we are. B reactor was built
What year was that built?
in 1943. It started in
That is
1943.
incredible.
In 11 months. And when you guys need to go on a tour.
Yeah, we
and
want to.
You go on a tour, you'll see that when I say that it's 11 months, the whole structure, not just the building of where the reactor was, but all of the supporting structure and all that type of thing. And then they had to manufacture the fuel in another spot. And then to do the separation of the uranium from the plutonium, they had to build another structure type of thing. They're all separated. I mean, it's kind of like, it's wild. When you think about that, it's kind of like they had to do this in less than a year.
Yeah.
And that's what's amazing. It's just kind of like what we were capable of doing at the same time. But, you know, they're just story after story after story. There's a ton of stuff out there for you to read and to, you know, try to digest. But again, everybody has their I guess, a path of how they want to tell the story.
Yeah.
And there's so many different ways of telling that story. To me, it was just kind of like, well, 45,000 people came out here and did this thing. They worked 24/7, and look what they accomplished. And then and we ended the war. And you have to think 1940s.
Isn't that incredible? Yes. So it gives me goosebumps. I think that is when you have to be able to kind of picture yourself. And when I look back, I see it in black and white because of the, all the films and stuff from the 40s, but all the pictures, are black and white, just like your photo there. But it's truly, I think what's crazy to me is the motivation for it was so broad in the labor force, and people thought that, what Hitler was doing and what if Germany got one first. And to think that they really believed that humanity was at stake.
You hit it right there. That's exactly right there. Because the people that came there, they weren't told what they were building. They were just told, if you're a welder, weld this pipe here and do this, whatever. Then don't ask any questions.
Yeah.
You're a carpenter. You build this structure here like that. You ask no questions. So when people ask you, well, what's going on out there? We don't know.
Yeah.
That's really what happened. We don't know, because that is exactly what the government wanted. That's where the secrets, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of documents that are declassified now that you can read. There's a tremendous amount of information out there. And I tell people one of the best pieces of what do you call it?
Like literature or something?
Literature out there right now is if you type in Colonel Matthias diary. Colonel Matthias was the head man out here.
Okay.
If you type in Colonel Matthias diary, there's 2.5 years worth of his diary while they were building this thing. Tremendous amount of history. You want to read some crazy stories that, some of it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
But they're snippets of history of the, workers when they came, and the problems that they had, the successes they had. When his right-hand man, Lieutenant Colonel Cadillac Hospital. Okay. He was the first. He died of a heart attack, and so that's how the hospital's named after him.
Oh, okay.
He's the first man to die out there. It wasn't because he just had, he had a heart attack. And the stories with the Native Americans, because they were displaced, and that's another part of the story that's really not told like it should be. Yeah, I think that just stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just tremendous. He had a tremendous job, and I think he did a great job to start with. I really think he was the person for it.
Yeah.
But when we look at all of these things and we read all these stories and stuff, you have to look at it with those blinders of World War II, 1940s. No social media, no this or that, and the newspapers and all these different things and stuff. It was just a different time.
Yeah.
Plus all of that secrecy, and if you tried to find out, you probably wouldn't be working out there anymore.
Right. Yeah. We've talked to, we've had people, the first lady I interviewed here, her childhood was in World War II in Manchester, England, getting bombed by Germany and stuff.
Yeah.
So we've been very fortunate here where we've visited with people in multiple parts of World War II now. And it's just, we're able to imagine it because we've seen Hollywood,
Sure.
computer animations, like the movie Oppenheimer, but back then there was no experience, or visual or audible for a human to be able to interpret even the description of what was going to happen.
I mean,
I think it's just incredible.
As realistic as they wanted to make it, like with the way the buildings are and stuff, they're too clean. They're too clean for. I mean, they were probably just dusty and just a lot of. And and I've read. So before the movie came out, I'd already read the story of all of the various scientists that that had some were pretty gung ho,
Yeah.
and then some they were just very cautious, kind of like, what are we unleashing type of thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot, but in all generations, there's people that are on both sides like that.
Yeah, you need that.
There is.
You need the
There is.
contrast.
And you need that, and that's that continuous dialogue. What is it now compared to what back then? We went through all the Cold War, we went through Vietnam, we went through all 9/11, all these things and stuff. Just kind of like, what shock value. Well, I was 10 years old when John F. Kennedy got assassinated.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of people talking about, JFK being blown away or this and that, whatever. People talk about all these different things and stuff. I don't like to hear it
Yeah.
because it was a very significant emotional event to me.
Yeah.
I mean, very significant.
Something you never forget.
Oh, never. And I don't, and then I was watching TV. I was watching it that Sunday after, on Friday and on Sunday. I was watching TV of Oswald being transferred when he was shot.
Yeah.
I was watching it. I watched it live and just kind of like going, what's going on?
Yeah.
A 10-year-old without social media.
Yeah.
Without any kind of, just kind of like, yeah. And so those are the type of things, just kind of like, they just how much they influence you with all of these things. Where were you when all this happened? Nixon resigning, out here in 1974. I just started.
Yeah.
I just started in July, and in August, he resigned, and all of the various things that happened through all of that type of thing.
Yeah, it's wild. I have an experience that I'll never forget. I think I was 9 or 10 when Princess Diana died.
Oh,
we were at Disney World. I lived in Florida at that time. We happened to be at Disney World. I will never forget. As a child, I could feel, I didn't know who she was, but you could feel the somberness in everybody at Disney World. And that's the happiest place on earth. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget that. Like it's one of my very first memories of a tragedy where you saw people just devastated.
Yeah. And
I imagine, you've seen so many.
Oh God. I had one of these things where, the first time I wrote a list down quite a long time ago, and you just triggered something in me, like first time I saw something, first time I saw a color TV, first time I saw a microwave, first time I used the microwave, first time I saw VHS, first time I saw a computer, first time I heard a computer talk, all of these things. Yeah, my grandmother, God bless her, when we got first phone stuff, she's holding it way out here like this, kind of like, what is, I hear a voice and everything, trying to get it up next to her. Type of thing. But those are the type of things that, we take for granted because technology has changes so quickly, But, for us, technology was changed just as, it seemed like it changed fast too. Like I do B-reactor, I tell people that, when you're touring B-reactor, it was shut down in 1968. It started up in 1944. And so you're looking at 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s technology because it backfit, things got better. Things got more, so they backfit a lot of instruments and switches and all that type of stuff. So you're seeing all of this, 24-year span, and you try to find the documents to see when they installed this and installed that and all these different things and stuff. And that's exactly, what we're experiencing now. Only it seems to be at light speed to me. But the kids that are in first grade right now, in high school graduating, that's not light speed. It's a normal thing.
Yeah.
You see, it's all relative when you think about all these different things.
I never thought of it that way because, just even at, I'll say mid 30s, I'm not going to do late 30s yet. They, time goes so much faster. So it is relative to your perception. So as things advance, as time, they say time flies as you get older.
Sure.
So you think your perception is that things are happening faster, even though they might not be. I never even thought of that till you said that.
Look at
it's wild.
Look at all of the different. I grew up. I watched Neil Armstrong take his first step on TV on the moon, that type of thing. And we haven't had a man on the moon since 1974, 75 or something like that. Why did we stop?
Yeah.
Why did we just put why did we put the brake on it when we could, the government and the space program was an R&D program that brought us a lot of things.
Oh man, NASA has done some incredible things.
And I get it. I get it. When it comes to funding and lots of things and stuff costs so much more and everything. And I do get that. And don't get me wrong there, but it's just kind of like we had all this knowledge and we stopped it in 1974. And now we're trying to get it back.
Yeah.
All those guys, all those old guys that you would love to probably interview.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You would love to. The guys like I sat in the control room when it was nothing but, analog.
Yeah.
And recorders that went in circles and all these different things and that type of stuff. And now everything is thrown at you so much faster. And I'm, whatever. Yeah, I got my cell phone, but I don't use it like, it's not a mobile device. People may call it mobile devices now type of thing.
Yeah.
It's not quote unquote a phone when I first started using it type of thing. To me, it's a means of texting my kids and giving people phone calls, reading, some news here and there type of thing. But it's really, the capability, I don't even come close to even using the capability.
Isn't it wild? It's incredible that the power and the technology in a phone, like this was years ago. I remember this might've been like 15 years ago, whenever the first iPhone came out. I remember watching a video where a guy said, people don't understand. You could take this phone and with the right adapter and software, you could plug it into a 747. And he said, fly it across the Atlantic and land it. And that's just incredible.
Guess what it is now? I mean, you think about it.
Yeah.
There's somebody right now, some individual that gonna be able to have that, make that happen. For better or for worse, however you want to call it, type of thing. And that's where, now with that AI technology, we've known that it's going to be coming forever and ever and ever. And then all of a sudden it really is here and everybody goes up in arms kind of like, well, you got to accept it. It's here. And we got to make sure that it's going to be used for what really we want to intend it to be used for. And I think there's people out there that are just totally 100% want it just for good. But then
I agree.
Just like anybody else, there's always some bad apples here and there type of thing that just kind of like, how can I do?
There's always, it's just the way humanity works.
Yeah.
Yeah. I work in data, so I'm pretty familiar with machine learning and AI and what we're doing to support it. And it's that, so just to go back full circle back to a nuclear energy, it's used, to enrich plutonium so we can save the world. And now we're going back to with these giant corporations funding nuclear power.
Oh my goodness.
Because of the power demand for machine learning is, and I don't think I'm allowed to say like the numbers or too much stuff on it, but it's an incredible, I think you can probably find it out now, but I just don't want to get fired. But there's what's coming down the line, and I've seen like what they predict and what they're trying to build. That's why they're going to unleash nuclear power. Well, not unleash it. Let's say they're going to use the efficiency of nuclear power they have to because of the power consumption that's about to occur with these data centers. And also, I think with us going a little bit more hybrid on our
I think,
vehicles.
like when you talk about the data centers and stuff, Amazon has great big old ones like everywhere type of thing. But the Bitcoin, the mining.
Oh yeah.
When they put all those computers all together and stuff in warehouses and stuff, they say that in Wenatchee that
it was gigawatt.
Yeah,
that one outfit.
They're building them there because power is cheap.
Cheapest in the United States.
Yes,
out
it
here.
is, Grant County. But it's overloading and it's taking away from, other industries and other homes and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So, God, it's just wild. But yeah.
It's wild.
And then the chips thing, whatever, and the manufacturing of them all. It's just, this world is too big and then it's just too small at the same time.
Yeah. I've never heard somebody say it that way.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's
is crazy.
How, you're probably being connected and everything else. Just like I go back to the Camino. I go to the Camino, and people have been walking this Camino for 1,000 years.
Yeah,
started back in the medieval and they walked across all of northern Spain, and now here I am in 2023. I went across, and there's a ton of technology, but you're walking through some old villages and stuff that had all these ruins and stuff, and
was it
and you go to the bars and to have a beer, some wine, or something else, something to eat, water, you name it, type of thing. It was just a plain old bar with somebody back there, giving you food. Nothing to do with technology.
Yeah. It's neat because we like to go hunting or go look for antlers at something. And it's the contrast that you need to appreciate one or the other. And it seems like the farther technology advances, the more I appreciate that hike in the woods. It's this neat contrast. And I just thought about this weekend when I was hunting, like when we find antlers or whatever, just like finding the giant elk antler, it's like an animal. How many times can you walk around, or how many, let's just say, people in the world's population have the opportunity to find a piece of an animal, pick it up and keep it, and that animal's still alive?
Yeah.
I just think that's why I love those things. I love sheds.
Oh yeah.
It's just kind of this connection that we get with wildlife that's so opposite from the connection we have with technology.
And my connection, you remind me of this, is Jeanette, who I met on the Camino. She's from Wisconsin, but we're 1,800 miles away. We're carrying on a relationship 1,800 miles away between us.
Because of technology.
But she has a place. She has a place in Costa Rica.
Oh yeah.
So I've been down to Costa Rica.
I think when I first talked to you, you were just
two
leaving.
or three times and stuff, and you're talking about the various things and stuff. first time I was there, she has some friends and everything else. One called her and said, "Hey, we're going to release some baby turtles." So I got a chance to release some baby turtles in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Whatever, and just kind of like, okay, take them out of because the eggs are moved and stuff to a safe place, and then when they're ready to hatch, they hatch and stuff, then we're going to release them. And you have to do it fairly quickly because of the what do you want to call it, intuition that they have, type of thing.
Yep.
And you're taking them out of the box and you're putting them down and just watching them and then heading in the wrong direction, and then you kind of like, come on, guys, go turn around, and then they just turn around and hit. I mean.
I remember.
It's cool.
Yeah, I remember that
it's
was
exactly the type of stuff that just.
I remember that back from the 90s. I remember the big thing was streetlights close to the edges of beaches, because I think I don't know if they still believe this to be true, but it's because they go to the moon, and so then they were like, we have to turn off all the streetlights at night close to the beach when the turtles hatch.
Exactly.
Yeah, because they would get disoriented.
Like I said, like. So the flashlights we had were covered with
were they like red?
Red cellophane or something like that, so they don't get confused with it, type of thing. So it was hard for me to see, and I mean, you're talking there. You
want to talk about a neat piece of technology? The flashlight with a red lens over it. You can shine it at like animals, like elk and deer. They can't see it. Like it doesn't bother them. So you can sit there and look at them through a red light. It's so neat. Like just this crazy thing that we've figured out.
Isn't that wild? Whatever. So it's just kind of like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But seeing all of these, like I said, like all of these things that just, it's so wonderful nowadays. I mean, I've experienced something that I wish my mom and my dad were still around so I could tell them what I did.
Yeah.
That I heard howler monkeys, that I saw red macaws, I saw whales breaching, and I saw, I jumped in the ocean in the middle of the night, the bioluminescence.
Oh yeah, that's on my bucket list.
If you ever want,
yep.
And I mean, it's so real. It's crazy. Here it is, so dark, and then as soon as you start moving around, God, there's lights all over. It's just
isn't that wild?
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I love that. I think the world is so cool. It's just incredible to think about, like we've gone so many places. I love this because to go from bioluminescent algae, to nuclear reactors, something so, both of them give off light, at two complete opposite extremes. But I wanted to ask you, so now you're reflecting, you've traveled a lot around the world and you understand a lot about like the atomic bomb, things like this. Do you ever reflect and think about, did you ever have like a time where you sat back and you were like, what would have happened if we never made this bomb, or if we never did this while you're working out there? Like I've talked to people and they're like, what do you think the greatest event is that's ever happened? What do you think the greatest invention ever is? And even though it was devastating and it killed a lot of people, I always wonder, like, was it that bomb that saved us from evil? I always wonder about that.
You're right. You're right there. But what like there's a statement that says that the wheel, fire, and nuclear energy are the three biggest influences of anything that in mankind, type of thing. And it's hard to argue that. It really is, type of thing. But to me, when you're talking about something that was, right now, I think the digital camera is the thing that has changed everything.
Yeah.
Video or still. I used to do 35 millimeter. Mm-hmm. I used to do weddings and stuff. That got me through college and stuff too, the second time around. And so whatever, like I said, like I made that list of things and stuff, like first time, another thing, talking about phones. I grew up with a party line. I don't know if party line was, there were like 50 people on the line, and you pick it up, you hear somebody talking out, until they got off the line before you could actually make a phone call or get one, that type of thing. When we got a private line, kind of like, talk about a big deal.
Yeah.
It was huge to be able to have that type of thing. then the age of the computers came along, and then you're hooking it up to the phone.
Oh yeah.
And so the people that had two lines coming into the house, one could be the computer,
Yeah.
one of them could be you could be talking on the phone.
Nope.
How many times you picked up the phone when
Yep.
somebody was on the computer and you knocked off their connection, kind of like.
There was a lot of sibling fights over the years over dial-up internet and the telephone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your older sister's trying to call her boyfriend, but you're on AOL Messenger.
And you think about this thing, I have 5 kids. There's 9 years difference between them. When my oldest son started in, probably what, 4th or 5th grade and stuff, they started having a computer lab type of thing.
Yeah.
And so they needed floppy disks. Mm-hmm. So I had to buy floppy disks, and floppy disks were expensive even back. So you had the floppy disk because they could save things on that type of thing.
Oh, that is such a great memory. Remember writing your name on it?
Yeah,
I do. I remember you had to write your name on it.
I had to do that for my kids, and then eventually, they got the mat disc, the smaller one type of thing, and then they got the memory stick.
Yeah.
And you put that, and then when they first came out, 256 meg. Oh wow, a lot of memory type of thing. And then eventually, and now they're so cheap. You can get 128 for whatever.
Yeah, we got 128 gigs right in that camera right there.
It's kind of like boom.
Yeah.
And it's the small type of thing. And the thing is, my son, who is 9 years older than my youngest daughter, she had no idea what a floppy disk is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's no reason for her to know what a floppy disk is.
Yeah.
Inserting it into that computer, whatever. And then like the DVDs and stuff. She whatever that was her thing, whatever. And so yeah,
it's fun.
That's what I was telling you. Said that the amount of time is that could have been 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
But that was 9 years, and now guess what? Now it's getting shorter.
Oh yeah. It's funny about the memory sticks is, I use them quite a bit at work, moving files around and things like this and doing certain things with certain devices and control systems.
Okay, we won't tell you about what they do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny because sometimes I'll be carrying one around and I'll be like, oh my gosh, do you remember those movies from the late 90s, early 2000s where they were killing people that had the one memory stick?
Yeah,
there was the spy with the memory stick.
That old Tom Cruise with a lot of the very
was it a Mission Impossible?
Or,
yeah.
You ever see the movie Now You See Him, Now You Don't? That with and those magicians and stuff, and they replaced that one card and all these. Oh God.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about when you look back on like everything. So I love that you said the digital camera. I think that the digital camera is kept us. I think it's almost made, I would say, society, like, although it gets used in bad ways and things like that, but being able to cherish memories, I mean, is such a beautiful thing. Oh. And I just love, my phone is full, of my kids and sometimes, I'll go back and I'll start tearing up because baby pictures. Cause she, I had a digital camera when she was born, and I think of how fortunate I am that I can just, appreciate those times by looking back.
One of the things that the year after the Christmas after my wife died, I put up the Christmas tree and stuff that we had and everything, and the ornaments and all that. And when I took it down, I went out to the back and I just smashed it, just totally just.
Yeah.
The memories of everything. It's just kind of like, and so the last 3 Christmases, I actually I got some cardboard, made it into a Christmas tree shape, and then just wrapped it in some wrapping paper, red Christmas wrapping paper, and everything else. And then I went and had pictures printed from the digital. All the different pictures I have, and I have a lot, and I still have albums and stuff, and I'm you just said like it brings back memories to you for that type of thing. With me, I like to see it and touch it and that type of thing. And so I made, and I can show you pictures of that and everything else. But I would put, my family and friends and my wife and stuff, all these pictures there. And that was my Christmas tree.
Oh, I love that.
I put some lights around it, that type of thing. So when I did the Camino, and I'll go back to the Camino. God, I'm going everywhere.
I love it.
When I went back to the Camino, when I went on the Camino, I had a bunch of pictures printed up of my wife, just barely little small ones, whatever like that. And then I just cut them and stuff. And then before I left, just as I was leaving to get on the out of the house to go on the plane, I said, I need to get pictures of like family. So I had an envelope full from the tree and stuff that I had taken.
Yeah.
And I just grabbed a bunch of them and I stuffed them in my backpack and I took them with me. And every so often on the Camino, there's shrines and there's crosses and there's statues of this and that, whatever that. And I going through my stuff and I put a picture up there of my wife or my family or my brothers and this and that, whatever, all along the Camino and stuff. And then I took pictures of where I left them. So now I have a route of, so if anybody ever wants to see, but as far as I'm concerned, the pictures are going to be blown away. They're going to fade or somebody's going to, do something, whatever. But guess what? They're forever part of the Camino.
Yeah.
That's the part about the things when you talk about it's your memory.
Yeah.
It's your memory. You talk about your kids and I talk about mine, whatever like that. It's kind of like they're forever there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and your reflection, the way you're going to view it, it's always going to be there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's where and I think this is where your wrinkled wisdom is a perfect. I said I can show you all my wrinkles type of thing, but it's a perfect. What do you want to call it? Name for this or what the goal that you want. I think it's perfect because you the questions you ask. I'm surprised it hadn't made me cry yet.
Yeah.
I mean, really, because it's just you're doing a wonderful job here. I think it's a perfect thing, and that you want people that are living now to understand that we're all going to age and we're all going to have wrinkled wisdom. Mm-hmm. Whoever 20-year-old that might be listening right now, in 50 years, you're going to have that wrinkled wisdom. And I hope you live to be able to tell them.
Yeah.
That's the whole role of family and your friends and stuff. And like I told you before about the people the people that I started working with back when I was 21, I'm their age now.
Yeah.
When I was, whatever, they were in their late 50s, early 60s type of thing, retiring type of thing. And I one of the things I tell people was, when I go past Sunset Gardens in Richmond and stuff, I bet you I know 300 people that are buried in there.
Yeah.
And I've gone to too many memorial services than I could ever want to think about going to.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, and these individuals, men and women, influenced me to give me that wrinkled wisdom.
Yeah.
Some of it was really great. So maybe a couple things maybe unpleasant and that type of thing. But guess what? I'm here.
Can I go science on you for a minute?
Here. Sure.
So my childhood best friend is a marine biologist, has a PhD, works for NOAA, one of my favorite people in the world. And he calls me a few weeks ago, and he worked on a dive boat for a while, and he would do guiding, and they would, spearfish and things like that. And he had a Captain Steve, I think his name was Captain Steve, and he really looked up to him. And he had got cancer and had passed away. And my buddy calls and he said, he's like, I just love what you're doing. He said, man, I wish I would have documented, I've been able to do that or had something like this. And that's actually why I do it. In my travels, I heard that was the most consistent regret I would hear was that people didn't document their loved ones' stories or just their mentors or somebody. And so I wanted to do that. But he said, so then he tells me how he wished he would have done that. And he was one of those guys that had all these cool stories. And, he's kind of one of those people that took the room over when he walked in. Well, then he says, but I'm going to tell you something that you probably haven't thought about. And I'm probably going to misspeak this because I'm not a scientist. And I hope I don't bash it. But he said humans are the only land mammals that go through menopause. The females go through menopause. And he said, I don't know the theory or whatever you'd call it. He said, but there's people that believe that we evolved that way because childbirth eventually was dangerous late in life, and the men were pretty, I guess, not reckless, but they didn't live as long as the females did. They were a little bit safer in the way they operated or lived. And I think they were protected because, the whole anything that lives needs its species to go on. That's the intent behind, or I guess that's probably our I would say hidden, like everything living wants to, procreate.
Sure.
Right. So we naturally evolved to set that up and set up our societies to do that. He believes that also why we did that was so that, or people believe this, that the women, we needed the tribal and elder knowledge. And it's why tribes protected their elders. That's why they had an elder that would teach the lessons and tell the stories. But he was talking about the science and how we've actually evolved to allow that to happen, to protect, to protect the wisdoms of generations and allow the females to hopefully get old and then share, hey, these weather patterns happen every 25 years. Don't do this because this has happened, and things like that. And I really appreciated when he called me and told me about that, because I'd never thought of it in a science perspective like that, and how evolution now has gotten us and technology has gotten us, and we're riding the back of that or the coattails of it, even though it's happened over thousands and thousands of years. It's really remarkable. And I was
it is. Yeah. I mean, and it just I am amazed of how we should always still be in awe of nature.
Yeah.
Always. I mean, I am in awe still of nuclear power.
Yeah.
How does this work? How does this work? I mean, and just kind of like, in the beginning, how this thing learned, I knew zero.
Yeah.
I knew zero. And then when they started pulling out the rods and stuff, and then, you'd see these needles going up and whatever. And they say, okay, we're at the point of adding heat. And I'm going, how did that happen?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like it's the backbone of everything in the world is the atom.
Yeah.
And the uranium atom. And so it's just kind of like, over the years and stuff, people that really understand, a lot of nuclear scientists and stuff. Like I said, I'm not a nuclear scientist, but I understand now when you talk about something biological, as opposed to just something. It's a rock, and look what it can do. But guess what? We're still more powerful than that rock.
Yeah.
The stuff that happens in that year, because we control it.
We control it. Yeah.
That is the rub. That is the bottom line.
Yeah.
All of these things, but then we always mess it. Then we mess it up. We mess it up because we have people that don't understand that part, and they just kind of like will say whatever they is on their mind, or whatever they just kind of like the ignorance thing, whatever. I grew up in a culture. I grew up, the Mexican culture and stuff. And it's like I said, I ate beans and tortillas every day.
Yeah.
And I don't get tired of that. And then I get to college, and they have a steak night at the Commons. A steak night? What's a steak night? Well, you get a steak. What? And then, going through the line and stuff, and they put a steak on my plate, and I'm going, that's just for me?
Oh, I love that.
Just for me. I couldn't figure. I just kind of like, because my mom used to make, when you go to Mexican restaurant, I think of the fajitas. Well, that's all and then we had the beans and the rice and everything else like that. And you didn't need a lot of meat.
Yeah.
To have it, to make it a feast, really. And here I am, and get a 6-ounce steak, and I put a baked potato on it, that type of thing. I'm just kind of going, that's just for me.
Yeah.
It just blew me away, and my first experience with that And I'll continue on with that first experience. I get to the table with there's about 6 or 7 of us guys sitting at a table, and I hear on the other end of the table, a guy just cussing up a storm. Said, I'm going to keep this thing, your audience type of thing. A few curse words and stuff. Just, well done. This is his last word here, and I had no idea, whatever. So I, my roommate said, "Yeah, just cut into it." So I cut into blood.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to eat this. I never heard of a rare steak or something like that. And the guy across from us, and I go, "You want this? You like this? See, I'll train you." So I got the well done, and he got his raw or rare steak, and he was happy. I was happy, and that was my first experience in learning what the difference is between well done and rare, and everything else in between. It just the first thing that you ever experience and stuff. It's kind of like, I think.
What's crazy?
Anybody that's listening to this.
What's cool about that?
Anybody that's listening to this should question themselves, kind of like, what's the first time you recognized something that was kind of like unique to your life that changed it?
Yeah.
That one of many. That's just one of many.
What's neat? I'm listening to you tell that story. It made me think about how sometimes how we're so different and how we can trade how, what might not be for me might be for you, and you can both end up happy.
That's because you have wrinkled wisdom in you.
Yeah, probably
already.
Well,
you do. You do.
You want to know where that came from?
Yeah, you can tell me, but you can. But
I
you
appreciate
can't,
that.
But you can't doubt that. I can see it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Whatever. I mean, it's obvious that I'm wrinkled. That many wisdom. Well, I don't know, but in my many years of life and stuff, when somebody, I've shared enough with lots of different people, that type of thing, young and old alike type of thing. I can see it in you.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I can. Dwayne, and watching him shake his head about this and that, whatever like that. I mean, you guys do. You guys have done this enough, probably, whatever episode I am again, type of thing. But it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to talk to you guys.
Oh, I appreciate that.
To be able to, because you're listening. That's the other part about it. It's kind of you're listening.
I described it to somebody. Somebody asked me about it the other day. Well, actually, we were at a dinner, and we had some people at work in from out of town, and somebody said, "Hey, he does this thing. He does this podcast and this and that," and people brag it up about it. And I kind of talked to him about it today, and I was like, I was like, I have never done something that has felt so genuine to my core. Maybe besides being a dad, but it's like, and it comes from, I lived in a town that was very small, Glenwood, Washington. I don't know if you're familiar, on the other side from Toppenish, on the other side of Mount Adams. And the other day I was trying to figure it out. My grandparents are everything to me. I talk to them all the time. I love my grandparents so much, and I owe so much to them.
Oh, yeah.
But
don't ever stop appreciating that. Don't.
In that town,
so important.
The majority of the population, or who I was involved with, was always the older generation, because there was nothing there for the young kids to establish themselves. Yeah. So they would move out. Well, so the kids that were there growing up, from the kids of the older generations, we were always helping the older generations, playing pinochle, doing dinners, shoveling snow off their roof because they couldn't do it, putting the hay in. And it was, so I had so many times. It's kind of a town where time has kind of stood still. There's still no cell phone service, but you just learned so much, and it was so valuable.
And that, it's a piece of Americana that, you want to just preserve but at the same time, it's going to eventually, move ahead a little bit, type of thing. And people's not staying there, that type of thing. It's just, in the Yakima Valley, where I grew up, it's changed tremendously as far as the makeup of the towns and everything like that. Mm-hmm. But, at the same time, I'm not afraid of going back there to experience where I crossed the tracks, where, I ran this and that, and the canals that went through, and just all of these, cool memories that you can't give them up. You
No.
have to, there's just so much that. I mean, here if you grew up here, if you grew whatever in Tri Cities, I grew up. I got here in 1974, and I've seen it change like crazy. Well, that building used to be this. That the baseball stadium used to be there.
Yeah.
And this, all these different things and stuff. It's there, and people really, when you sit down and talk, say, what are we going to talk about? Well, I had no idea what we were going to talk about.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you need to do.
Yeah.
Just continuously, and I'm very fortunate to have had my parents teach me how to respect.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're so different. We're so different backgrounds.
Oh, yeah.
Without a doubt, we're so different backgrounds. But there's common ground.
That's the beauty of it.
And it's kind of like getting that common ground and everything else. Just kind of like and carrying on that conversation. The biggest common ground that we haven't even touched is music.
Yeah.
Guitars. Oh man, I forget this.
You know-
I'm going to play. I'm going to talk with you guys about
Yeah,
music. And that's and see so, but it's a good basis. It's
you know
a good
what-
basis because you have that trust. We have that trust now.
You know where I think our common ground probably is? I think it's probably our what that music probably comes from. That why you and I are common, like we see it as.
Oh.
I think it's deeper than that. Where I truly want to suck everything out of life I can. And we interviewed a lady named Marjorie, just an incredible human, and she definitely. I mean, she did so many amazing things. She said, I think it comes from an old movie, but she said. Life's a banquet and only the poor suckers are starving. and I will never forget that because it really is. And just the things you've done, I think it's incredible. I think it's important to also, it gives you joy when you figure out what you're capable of. But if you're not out there trying to, like I say, suck everything out of life you can, I've met people that have missed their mark and they've told me that and it breaks my heart. I've met people that say, I really felt like I was maybe should have been a musician, and they're too late, and they're 60 years old, and they've been an engineer, and then
And the thing is, my mind goes so quickly, and I just trying to remember what I wanted to say to you.
Oh, sorry.
And that's all right; it's no big deal. But I tell people that 75% of the people that I've met in my lifetime is because of the guitar.
Yeah.
Is because of music, and and it draws all of that back so that you learn to appreciate. I mean, there's certain parts of kind of music that I like more than any other kind type of thing, but at the same time, you learn to appreciate what makes you get that rhythm. And I tell people one of the things I tell people is to kind of like go back Beethoven's era. You're a great symphony, just like we would hear a great concert, rock concert. We're walking out punk, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I bet you a lot of those people that walked out of those symphonies during Beethoven's time, they were walking out saying, "Man, that was great." They're walking on air. That was great, Beethoven, Mozart, whatever.
Yeah,
really.
It's Frisson.
It changes.
Look at what is Frisson? I think it's Frisson. I didn't even know about this term until recently.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, there's a Frisson, but there's also another.
I think it's French.
But
yeah, you get endorphins off of audible stimulation.
Walking does this, like with a Camino. Mm-hmm. When you walk, if you walk 20 miles.
Yeah, Frisson. The sudden rush of emotional or aesthetic chills that some people experience when listening to music.
There you go. When on the Camino, when you're done walking, at the end of the day, you're kind of like, you get on the bunk that you're assigned and stuff, whatever, and you want to feel tired, but you're so pumped up. Mm-hmm. It should be just the opposite. You should just be kind of like, I just walked 20 miles, with the pack.
Yeah.
You sit down and just kind of like, and all of a sudden, I feel some energy. You got to wash your clothes. You got to go find something to eat. You got to take a shower. All these different things and stuff. And all of a sudden you find the energy to do it all.
Yeah.
And you wanted to quit at the end of that. And it's the same type of thing. You know, the human body is just
It's incredible.
wonderful. Just, you know, whatever. That's why I'm just kind of like, you know, like I said, like me and Jeanette said, no. It said, we're going to, as long as we have, you know, 2 feet that can go at a certain rate, I use my hands a lot.
Yeah.
I tell people, I said, as long as I can continue to do this, I'm going to keep on playing.
Yeah.
You know, and that I got it from, you know, Chet Atkins is the world's greatest guitar player ever.
I wish I had I wish that guitar was in here.
You know, but he had a stroke. He got a stroke.
Oh, to show you the picture of Chet Atkins. So
He got a stroke. I saw him. I saw him in concert a couple times. But he had got a stroke a couple years before he died.
yeah,
And so guess what happened? The stroke, he couldn't use his left
I know.
hand. So there was an interview. There's an interview of Chet Atkins here, and you know, he says, and he said, he gets a guitar, he puts it up to his chest and holds it because he can hear the vibration still in it.
yeah,
And that's all you could do. And man, so that's with me. If anything happens to me, give me the guitar. I'm going to put it right here next to my chest. I'm going to put something. You know, I mean, I don't have my mom or my dad or a couple brothers here. I mean, but guess what? I'm going to go like this. I'm thinking of my mom now.
Oh, I love
thinking
that.
of my dad now. And, you know, that's exactly what you need to do.
Yeah, you know what's crazy about? So my grandpa played guitar with Merle Travis.
Oh, God, really?
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's why I have two Chet.
That's why you have those
That's why I have
Chet
two Chet Atkins
Really?
guitars. Yeah, and so I was gonna have him see it. It's in Dropbox, but it's okay. I have the pictures there somewhere. But there's a video out actually where Merle Travis, he was on some show and the guy came over and finger picked. Because you know Chet Atkins played, I think he played after Merle Travis. Merle Travis was the first one that played that style. And what's really, ironic about that story is, so my grandpa played that style. I'll show you sometime some of my grandpa's music.
The melody with the thumb and stuff.
Yeah, here we go. We'll pull it up. So there he is right there, Chet Atkins.
Oh, yeah.
And there's my grandma, like in the left. My grandma's with Merle Haggard in the one, and my grandpa.
Oh, my
I have some other
goodness.
pictures of my grandpa.
You got history, dude.
Yeah, well, that's why I was wondering if you'd ever heard my grandpa play music over in Granger or anything. But my grandpa, John, he passed away when I was young and lived in Florida. He's the reason I play guitar. I never learned from him, but I'd sit on his lap and he'd put that thumb pick on my thumb. And oh man, I'll never forget those memories. But my grandpa, very similar. He had a stroke. He had cancer and ended up with a stroke, and he couldn't play and he couldn't talk, from what I know. And it devastated him, and he couldn't, show his response. But he loved Chet Atkins.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. You know that and I'm glad that I heard that interview, because it's just kind of like, okay, if all your faculties go away, that type of thing, that you can't do this anymore. It's just kind of like, that's why you have, we have those memories, and it's just kind of like, if I can put that mandolin right here, and it's just like when you tune it, just like tuning, simple tuning, you have that thing right there. It's kind of like that. You know how it's supposed to sound.
Yeah.
You hear certain.
Isn't that crazy when you tune a guitar, how it'll level out?
Oh,
you can
yeah.
Hear,
And then,
you can hear the frequencies fight each other, and then it'll just go.
And you know what though? But physically things happen. You heard Styx. I'm not going back to
the band
Styx.
Yeah,
the band Styx. They have that song called "Lady." You know how it's a beautiful song. It starts out with the piano, this guy playing it really good and everything else, and then he has it like a whistle that goes up, and then there's a bell that goes ding. I can't hear that bell anymore.
Oh.
And it drives me crazy. I've told my kids when they play that type of thing, and I know when the bell went off, didn't it? Yeah, I can hear it, whatever, but I can't hear it because of my, I've lost my hearing at that part.
Yeah.
And, but you know what? I got that memory. I love that song still. I'm just hearing this thing, and then all of a sudden it's going up and everything else. But that's all right.
What I love what you're saying right now is we've discussed this. You're hitting the intent of why we do this, or the motivation for it. And we've talked about this because I've talked about people that play music or played sports, whatever you were in the past. If you stay till the end long enough, your brain stays, you get your faculties and they stay there. is you get to tell your stories, you know, and that's the beauty of what we're able to do now with technology and capture those stories and they're your stories.
And
they're nobody else's.
You asked earlier about, I've got a bunch of blank books that I've written stories in.
Yeah.
I wrote like a 15-page story of my 5 heroes.
Yeah.
With my grandparents and my mom and dad stuff. And I've given that away to parents. And I need to update it because my dad has died now. My dad was still alive when I did that type of thing. So, and then all of these different things over my life. And so you can see how I, quote unquote, grown.
Yeah.
And what I've been thinking of and that type of stuff. And, you know, and then talking with my kids, it just, all of these thoughts and stuff just kind of like, cool. You know, there's one thing about having children that, you know, and when they grow, I'm glad that they're no longer babies anymore because our conversations we're having conversations.
Yeah.
We're exchanging ideas. We're exchanging feelings and everything like that. It's the pinnacle of relationship. It's just kind of like to have that, to be able to share that, not just quote unquote knowledge, but feelings from a certain thing that was said or heard. I tell people that, you know, I got 5 kids right now, even at their ages right now. I put them all right there like that, and if I say something or anything else, they'll all take it differently.
Yeah.
And that's fine. They will process it in a different manner.
Yeah.
And they will appreciate it in a different context and manner and that type of thing. That's the whole beauty of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know,
that's, you know what I like about that is that's like one of what you're saying right there. That's the beauty of a vote, you know, with America.
Take it.
You know, it really is. And people forget that a vote, you know, we tend to, especially since election season, but just a vote it's that choice that you make is from a culmination of all those experiences in your life at that time.
Yeah. It can't be one thing.
Yeah.
It has to be
I think that's so neat.
You know, and you know, one of the things that you can also do or think about is that, you know, this being an election year, you know, in 1944, when they were building that B reactor and stuff and all of the facilities there, that it was a presidential election year in 1944. And Hanford, that whatever was the largest voting precinct in the United States. Can you believe that? And you know who the Army.
Yeah.
Who else? I mean, something that has an organization. You can think whatever you want to think about the Army, but the organizational capabilities that it had, put it together so that people could vote.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? From people that came from all over the United States were here and stuff, and they had to be able to vote.
Isn't
that amazing?
Crazy. Yeah, that's something you never hear about. That's one of those butterfly effect things that you talk about.
Yeah, I got the picture of a list of lots of things and stuff that they, you know, whatever. And then also it was the largest what do you call it? Mail.
Oh yeah, I think I did know
in the world
Yeah.
at the time. That you could, you know, went over. And then all the list of all the different things that they drank and ate and whatever. Like that. Even one of the things on there is 16,000 cigarettes. 16,000 packs of cigarettes were sold every day out there. 16,000.
And there was
packs.
And there was 45,000 people out there. Jesus. That is incredible.
when I started in the control room there at Enrichment, I mean, I've never smoked in my life. But you walk in that control room and stuff, man, you had ashtrays and people smoking all the time. Here we are looking at prints and stuff, and, you know, guys were smoking and doing all, kind of like, man, I have so much secondary smoke in my lungs. You know, I'm still here. I mean, so I don't know. It's wild. It's wild.
You know,
really wild.
The other day I had a memory. Just recently, I was talking about when I used to go out into the woods with my grandpa. That was the big time when you were a kid. Because my family had a logging company, and if you got to go out with grandpa to ride through the dusty roads through the woods, that was the big time as a kid for me. You know, well, And I just a few days ago, I thought, oh my gosh, there was ashtrays in cars. I pictured it in that truck, even though my grandpa didn't smoke.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't believe that. Like I hadn't thought about that. I bet you in 20 years.
Ashtrays and cigarette lighters.
Cigarette lighters. Oh yeah. The good old cigarette lighter burn. Where are we at on time, Wayne?
Almost at 2 hours.
Oh wow.
We're at 2 hours.
Yeah.
You talk that much?
Yeah. We can do it again. if you ever, I think we got a lot more. If you ever want to do this again, we'd love to.
Give me a call. Give me a call.
There's two things I always like to ask people. Well, one really, but I love culture as well. What is one of your favorite things about the Mexican culture or the Hispanic culture that you just hold dear to your heart?
Oh God, I think probably. Well, here we are. 2 days from All Souls Day, Dia de Muertos and stuff. We really wasn't a big deal in our family too much, but honoring and respecting your elders. Because, like my next door neighbor, I knew him as Don Santiago, Doña Mague. That's their first names. But they were terms of respect.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I worked at a Mexican restaurant one time, was managing it and helping out. And the help, they started calling me Don Carlos.
Oh.
I mean, so it's Doña. That means it's. I love it. It's just not like it's not Senor Rodriguez or Senor this or Senora that, whatever. It's their first name with that Don or Doña, and I really miss that, meeting people and knowing people like that. My dad was known as Don Manuel, and it's just kind of like, it's so cool.
Yeah.
And I like but you see that in Latin cultures and stuff, whatever like that. Maybe Italian, but I'm pretty sure that when I go down to Costa Rica and I've met people and they're talking there and everything else, I'll call them by their first name. I'll say Don or Doña and everything else. Yeah. And they just kind of like going, how do you know that? You're an American. How do you in this? I met a lot of Spaniards in Spain. I speak Spanish. Mm-hmm. A lot of people that have won on the Camino that are good friends of mine, they said that they wish they'd known Spanish, but. So I befriended quite a few, on a trip. And one guy came up to me and he says, I got a name for you. And he said, you're a gringo Mexicano. I said, nobody's ever called me gringo before. Right. And so it's just kind of like, hey, yeah, if that answers your question, I think that is. I think it's just respect. Always have, and I miss that. I really do.
When I was a kid, like down south in Florida, it was yes, ma'am, yes, sir.
Oh,
and when I first went down there, I remember one time I got in trouble. She was like, my teacher said something, and she's like, yes, what? And I was like, yes, I'll do this. And she's like, it's yes, ma'am. And I was like, whoa, I wasn't used to that. But down south, that was a big thing.
In many ways, it still is, really. You think about that, that really is.
Yeah. I like that. Our next one is, we always ask, if you were to give, some advice to the younger generation, inspirational or, we like to stick with inspirational or happy advice. But is there anything that you tend to share with the younger generation when you get a chance to speak with them? Or
I'm big on the word seed. Okay. If recognize a nugget being planted in you, because you are the fertile soil.
Oh, I like that.
You're the fertile soil. And then so I always think of there's lots of songs. If you look up the word seeds and stuff, there's all kinds of these beautiful ballads. And I always think of, and if you want to get down to it, my favorite verse, and hopefully we can probably end it with it. My favorite verse in the Bible is out of Isaiah, the 55th chapter, and starts with the 10th verse, and it goes, "Just as from the heavens the rain and snow come down, watering the earth, making it fertile and fruitful, giving seed to him who sows and bread to him who eats, so shall my word be that comes forth from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but shall do my will. In joy I shall depart, in peace I shall be brought back, and all the trees of the countryside shall clap their hands." It's just kind of like she said, if you do that, if you do that, guess what? Man, you can do wonders. Anybody can do wonders. If I can sit right here on this chair from the humble beginnings that I had to the joys and the trials, whatever, guess what? Here I am.
Yeah, I love
It's
that.
not the end either.
Yeah, I love that. That's cool. Man, I love that. Well, if we weren't going to run out of memory, I'd sit here all day. But Carlos, I really am so happy that CJ connected us, and I got to reach out.
CJ, I'm going to call you something else later on. No.
Yeah, but we really appreciate you coming, and I love your joy and your. I just love the way you view the world.
I hope you guys can have continued success with this on whatever this podcast like this. I think it's wonderful. I hope you find some more. I will mention it to friends and stuff, and maybe they have somebody that can
Absolutely
you want to talk with, and like I said, that I know a lot of people that are my age and older and stuff, and whatever you guys are looking for,
you can
you have my number.
Yeah, and you can share my number with anybody. I'm very open. Like my door is always open.
Mm-hmm.
I love people, and everybody's so unique that I'll sit down with anybody. There's something there.
And we gotta do that.
We will. Yeah. We should. Well, the winter time comes, we'll definitely do that.
There we go. Thank you very much.
Of course, you're always welcome. Thanks, Carlos.